Hello, everyone. It is November 3rd, 2022, and this is the Backdrop Weekly Developer Meeting. We get together every week to talk about priorities and things happening in the world of Backdrop. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet, and I'm a founder and core committer of the Backdrop project. We'll go around the room. We've got a pretty good group of people here today, and just tell us your name, where you're calling in from, and any other info you want to drop about yourself. We'll start with Robert, and then we'll go to Greg.
I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet, coming to you from Altadena, California.
Thanks, Robert. Greg, and then Tim.
I'm Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne, and I'm doing my best to catch up with everything. There's so many things. Exciting.
Thanks, Greg. Tim, and then Martin.
I'm Tim Erickson. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota, St. Paul, Tim. And I told people in the last meeting, the big news is I did get the drone out of the tree. So okay. That's it.
Thanks, Tim. Martin, and then Luke, actually.
I'm Martin in the United Kingdom. This week I've mostly been working on B, but I've also been documenting an issue for core as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Martin. And Luke?
I'm Luke McCormick in San Ramon, California, and I'm poking away at some marketing issues recently.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. We're also joined by Jen Lampton, who's calling from near Los Angeles, and Andy, Doc Wilmot, who calls in from the Cayman Islands. Is that right?
Yeah, I can actually speak today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself then.
Yeah, so, nice to see everyone. Andy Shillingford from the Cayman Islands, known as Doc Wilmot on the issue queues. It's great to be here with you guys today.
Excellent. Yeah, we love having you here. Yeah, this week is an interesting week. We were talking before the call about time zones. As people are aware, time zones shifted for a lot of the world this past week on October 30th. Time zone shifted. They have not shifted for those of us in the United States. They start next week. So this week is like the complete week of time zone doom where everybody misses meetings because it's all mixed up. But in case you were not aware, the Backdrop meetings do not obey time zones at all. The Backdrop meetings are based on UTC time, and regardless of when time zones are shifting around the world, the Backdrop meeting is always at the same UTC, not observing daylight savings time ever time. So it doesn't really matter when time zone shifts, the meeting always stays at the same real time, just not the same legislative time by your country. So that results in a slightly different shakeup of some of the people that can attend these meetings, like Martin and Andy. I'm not sure. Martin said time zone was relevant for him, and that's great. That's one of the reasons why we decided to have these meetings not be time zone dependent, because we can get different audiences and different people attending between daylight savings time and standard time. So great. I'm really glad to see everyone here. Let's see, normally we go into, we have Jen give us the project update, but she's not in a speaking location, but she updated the agenda. There's two new contrib modules this week, big menu and heading module. Both have been created and have their first new releases this week. Let's see, big menu is an alternative to core menu management. I see. This is the big menu. It's not like a big display menu. This is for a menu that's very large, that has lots of menu items in it. Oh yeah, big menu module. I haven't seen that one in a while. And then heading module that gives you a field formatter to wrap a text field with a heading tag. Nice and simple. That's awesome. Great to see these new contrib projects coming in. Let's see, every week we have a forum post that we solicit topics to be discussed during these meetings. There were a couple of items put into that forum post this week. The first one was from Indigo Zella discussing the new PHP CS code checker that has been put in. The issue that she raised is number 5848, in which we're seeing the GitHub Actions PHP CS check starting to flag lines that weren't modified incorrectly. I mean, actually, it's flagging the line correctly because there's an actual code syntax problem, but it wasn't something that was changed in the pull request, and so it's blocking the pull request from being approved because there's a completely unrelated line that it's saying there's a coding standards violation on. Robert, it looks like you were participating in this. Do you have any more information or suggestions or just thoughts about how this is going?
Yeah, we, I mean, partly because one of my PRs is one of the examples where this came up. And so then it sort of creates the question, well, do you just go fix the unrelated error in your PR so that your tests will pass? And, you know, and things can move on, but then that seems sort of counter, combining issues into a single PR seems counter to standards.
Yeah, I agree that it's inconvenient. Although at the same time, if Greg were to file a pull request, he would be more than happy to fix all of the typos and coding standards in a file every time he touches one.
Yeah, I usually go like a few lines, 10 lines up, down, and if there's a doc block, I try to fix that or add the in the doc block the parameters, return values, and you know, and their types as well. I try to do that, but it would be awesome if we could do that automatically instead of me going in.
But
yeah,
in some cases, what was flagged is completely unrelated. Like in one of the PRs, I think that all of the changes were in simple test module, but it was flagging things in entity reference module.
Really?
And the Indigo Zella figured out the reason for that was that the branch was pretty far behind core, and those were new files that had been added to core, and so they were getting the GitHub action, and you know, so you could make those go away by rebasing on the core, and so you know that's a partial solution. But in the past, if a branch was far behind core but it was mergeable without commit, then you know it was okay. You could
I was about to
be
say
committed.
that.
And it seems a little much to say to, you know, but maybe we have to do this to say, if you are seeing PHP CS errors in unrelated code, try rebasing your PR, but that seems like an extra layer of.
We could automate
stuff to
that.
have to do.
The script that spins up sites on my local actually rebases and pushes to the branch if it's older, but only if there's no conflicts. So I'm sure there might be a GitHub action that we could add on top of that, which if there's no conflicts, it rebases, if the rebase is clean, right? Mm-hmm. And that should take care of most of these.
Yeah, interesting problems. Automatically rebasing the pull requests could create new problems. I think for people that are less familiar with Git, it could be really confusing that they won't be able to push to their branches because now the pull request is rebased, which means it has different commits than your local. And so they might not understand that they're now required to force push in order to get their pull request updated. And so that could prevent people from making changes to their own pull requests potentially. Interesting. The requirement that people be up to date doesn't actually sound too horrible to me. That doesn't seem that bad. But what we could do, if it's an option, is could we not fail people's pull requests, like not give them a fail on the PHPCS, but continue to get like the suggestions that PHPCS puts onto the pull requests. Because it identifies the lines in addition to being in the action results, it's also shown as comments on the code screen. And so I kind of wonder if we could retain that ability, but not necessarily fail people's pull requests. I don't know. Yeah, in this situation, I'm still leaning towards, I think that PHPCS is useful and it's doing something that's more helpful than harmful. So I'm still inclined to like, keep leaning into this and keep it around. But yeah, that is inconvenient that now you need to be up to date. Inconvenient, but not a bad idea. You really should be up to date anyway when you file your pull requests. So I don't think that that's a real issue. It's also possible. I don't like that it's like making suggestions, on stuff that you might not necessarily have touched, like in the same file. I think IndigoZilla flagged that because it's using git blame somehow, that the lines that it's suggesting corrections on are other lines that you touched individually previously. And so she touched a line higher up in layout module, I think it was, in a previous commit, and that's where it was flagging this line is needing a change. So it's going to be more frequent for more frequent contributors and less often for people that are only making a pull request every now and then. So that's kind of also a good thing, but it's not desirable, but it's also like at least the people that are getting it are going to be the people that will be best equipped to handle it because they're our most frequent contributors.
I'll just mention, even if you get it, your pull request is up to date when you make it. For issues that stretch out for a long time, which was the case here, the tugboat had expired. So just closed and reopened to build a new tugboat. And then that was when PHPCS came up with all this. Yeah,
where you don't even make any changes, but because it's out of date, is that the thing again? Like,
yeah, it was the PR was old. There was no just wanted to look at the tugboat build to kind of compare example, and it had expired because of the 3-month expiration. So close and reopen, and that's enough to generate. Now maybe that's still, you say, well, if you're coming back and going to be actively working on the PR, just go ahead and rebase it and general principles to get it up to date. But it just seemed like I didn't do anything. Now it's complete.
Totally. Yeah, and the other thing that is, I don't know, like, this problem, if we actually corrected the coding standards violations, this problem will also reduce over time because our files will just become more and more code compliant. But that could take years because Backdrop is a very large project with thousands of coding violations, I'm sure. And so this could, it's not really just wait and it'll get better, at least from our code side, because it's going to take a very, very, very long time. There is the wait and maybe the action will get better and have less false positives, and they'll work out the things on the side of the action script. And that, I think, is much more likely to occur, that things will get better from the action side. Does anyone else have thoughts on this, like one way or the other, as to what we should do in the meantime? Like, the obvious easy solutions here are that we could disable it, or we could ignore the failures, which isn't great. We could request that people make the suggested changes, even if they are unrelated to the pull request, just to get the test passing. Those are 3 options I see right away. Does anyone else have
I
things?
I did a quick search for automatic rebase, and there's one that you can type a command /rebase in the pull request, and it automatically rebases, but only then. So it doesn't do it as part of the action, but if you type a message in the PR, then it rebases.
Oh, so it's like a manual rebase that is just based on a request. Oh, that's kind of nice. Yeah, that could be potentially useful for core committers, that when they see a bunch of failures going on, they could just go in and request the rebase. I wonder, can anyone do it, or only core committers? I bet.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Because there's like that little checkbox that's like allow maintainers to make changes to this pull request.
Yeah.
And I bet it will only work if that's checked, because in the case of some pull requests, not even maintainers can modify the request.
Right.
And so I bet for if that ability exists, probably only people that have commit access will actually be able to use it, because they have to have the permission from the author first.
I'm sure there's a GitHub action to warn about that as well. You haven't checked that checkbox. We need it in order for whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it annoyed other people, then I'm sure someone has created an action. Okay.
As someone who does occasional pull requests on core, I think I'd be quite worried about going and making changes on files that were unrelated to the pull request. Even if a script is doing it, would just feel a bit wrong to be doing stuff that's not related.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm looking over our documentation right now. We could do interesting. These videos are from like 2015. And we could use a little bit of updating on our visuals here. Here's the documentation page. We have contribute to Backdrop Core is under the contributors guide under docs.backdropcms.org. I was just reading over it because Indigo Zella and Robert were going back and forth about, where should we put this documentation about, requiring people to be rebased and updated and stuff like that. Yeah, it's all. Well, Greg, we can try that action as well. I don't really see it being harmful because it's an on request thing that could be useful for other purposes, not necessarily even for this particular issue, the PHPCS thing. But I don't think it's not a comprehensive fix for sure. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens if we do nothing, air quotes. Then if we do nothing at all, then that means we'll get a mix of solutions. We'll get people ignoring the PHPCS and merging it anyway. And we'll also get people making the changes because they want it to pass. I think that would be a very natural thing. If the computer is bothering you about it not passing, then a lot of people are going to make the changes anyway to get it passing. And I don't really have a problem with that. Yeah, anyone else have thoughts? Yeah, I'm afraid that kind of this is the direction I'm leaning, is that PHPCS is still doing more good than harm. And that the most likely way for this problem to be fixed is fixed on the side of the action. So we can simply wait and hope that the action improves its capabilities. The only thing that we could do or the best solution, I think, would be to proactively go and work on the action to help improve it, and make it so that this sort of bug basically just doesn't occur, because we'll actually fix the action itself. So I would say the solution that we should pursue first if possible, is actually work on the action itself to fix the problem. Because I think that would be the most ideal outcome for us. We wouldn't have to do anything within Backdrop's code. We'd get the review and feedback of the author of the action, and we'd help other people that are using the action. So in the meantime, we'll probably end up with this grab bag of people ignoring. I think we can encourage. I can email our core committers and let them know that ignoring PHP-CS failures is fine, and then that will make it so that core committers won't necessarily block stuff on that work, and then individual contributors can either ignore the lines or they can fix them. And because I don't think that we'll be able to really consistently enforce that change. We could update the documentation though to say either that it's optional or push them in one direction or the other. And I think we should probably suggest that they don't need to make the changes, because I think that that's just likely to lead some people to frustration that they are required to make changes, or even that they're being pushed in the direction of making changes that are unrelated to the changes that they're suggesting.
I have a question about the scenario. If there are two different PRs that PHP-CS flags the same bit of unrelated code for both PRs, and then both authors go and fix those and make the changes, then will that set up a future merge conflict? Because when the first one is merged and it fixes it, and then the second one is merged and that code has already been fixed, will there be a merge conflict, and or would that be a problem?
So first of all, based on what we've seen, I don't think that that's likely to occur, because what we're seeing, at least if they're both rebased, what we're seeing right now is that it's only lines that the individual author has changed that are getting flagged. So two people won't get the same line because they'll have different blames on that. So the author is getting told previous changes that you've made in this same file have issues. So that won't happen to two different people because they have the different last line changes. So hopefully that won't happen too often, but it could still happen in your pull request is out of date, the rebase problem. And in that case, if two people made the exact same fix, then you would not get a merge conflict. Git doesn't care if two people made a change, as long as the lines are identical in their end output. Doesn't cause a merge conflict. However, if they both see a coding standards violation, they fix it in slightly different ways, then that would cause a merge conflict. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, this sort of thing. I don't think PHP-CS is going to increase the frequency of that happening dramatically because of the different authors thing. Okay. So I think, to summarize one more time, we make no changes to the backdrop workflow. We update the documentation saying that PHP-CS failures can be ignored if needed. And then I also communicate to the core committers that PHP-CS failures can be ignored in the meantime. Let's also see if it's possible to not fail a pull request. That would be nice if we could have that not report a failure, but still continue to post the comments. That would also be a nice thing. I'll post a comment to this pull or to this issue. Okay. All right. Next up, is there anything else on PHP-CS? Okay. All right. Next up, Martin, your issue 4007. First of all, thank you for advocating for this issue. That's great. So this is a feature for the 124 release. Can you kind of summarize this issue and then what kind of help you're looking for on it?
Well, this issue is about storing the alt and title text globally along with the files, so they're not just stored against the node, but then it's also about adding a user journey. So let's say someone first adds the file, the image at a node, it then gets added to the global, and then when someone comes to reuse it, they have the option to override it. And then we've also got the ability to change it at the global level from the manage files, which would then roll out to any that was still using the default version. And I've also added a bit in what do we do for when sites upgrade, can we use their existing what they've already put on alt text and title text. So I've written out quite a detailed specification. I think what we really need is one or two developers who feel confident in tackling it and are comfortable with what we've proposed, and also anyone else who's sort of got an interest in this to check that I've covered everything in the specification, and if there are any changes, then ideally make them before anyone starts developing.
Yeah, I want to share my screen here for a second to show this, because this is amazing.
This reminds me of one of my favorite colleagues. He was a tech lead, and if he was assigned any ticket that didn't have acceptance criteria, he would kick it back and say, this is not ready for dev. So this reminds me of that.
Well, I'm a business analyst. Well, I've worked. Yeah, I'm a trained business analyst, and I've worked as a business analyst for several years. So I always did detailed acceptance criteria. So I thought, here's my chance to flex my skills again.
Yes. So summarizing here, what we're seeing, if people aren't able to read the screen at the moment, is that Martin put into this issue a comprehensive list of acceptance criteria and the way that certain interfaces should behave as you manipulate images in different ways, and categorize them by where you're editing the image. So image added to the site via node edit, image added to the site via manage files, reusing an image on another node, and amending global alt and title text for image. Oh, there's more. User upgrade site with existing images. Fantastic. I think, I mean, admiring it is one thing, but we also need to read this and make sure that the acceptance criteria are all agreed upon as like, this is what we want to actually do. One caveat to having this level of detail is that it definitely empowers a developer to know what they're doing, but it also means that if these acceptance criteria aren't correct and the developer goes ahead and implements them, then they're going to be mad if we change the criteria later. That's like the caveat. That's like, if a developer is developing without any idea of where the end result is, it's common that they need to go back and rework their things. If you lay out requirements this clearly, they need to be accurate.
Absolutely, that's why I want people to look over and check that I've got everything right.
Just one comment, Martin, did you copy paste that into the summary? Because if you did,
yeah,
maybe delete the issue, because it's duplicating and it's creating a longer.
Oh,
yeah. Jen asked me to put it in the top one as well.
So since it's at the top, then we don't need the other one. It's just duplicating. So
yeah,
we can discuss this. Yeah, I like how Indigozella in certain issues, if they're longer, she adds details. She adds them into details elements, so you can expand and work on these. But I might go and do that so that it's easier for people to read one chunk at a time.
Yeah, is there somewhere where we can document how to do that? Because I would have to go find where Indigo Zella did it, and I would not
It's
remember
just
where to look.
HTML. It's just HTML details element.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So I'll just look up, okay, I'll look Google HTML details.
Yep.
I don't usually use that element. Thank you.
Great. So yeah, I would encourage us to take a look at these acceptance criteria. I guess because this isn't like a collaborative document or anything like that, if there's any concerns, just post a comment as another item down below. I also agree, like, let's nix this comment because we have it up at the top. And then we'll just edit the summary repeatedly, and as we close in on the correct
Approach.
acceptance criteria.
There we go. It's gone.
Thanks.
Perfect. Wow, thanks so much, Martin. That looks great. I think this could start being an example that we hold up as a way to be an effective advocate without necessarily being a developer. Because this is really just excellent, the level of clarity here. Of course, you are also a developer, so don't. It's not a slight or anything.
Yeah, I aspire to be able to do things like this, but I'm not quite there yet. So,
all right, that looks fantastic. Is there anything else to be discussed on that one?
no, people just need to read it, and we need to make sure we're happy, and then decide on the way forward. So.
Yeah, this is great. And this is a global versus overrides is always a heady, somewhat messy situation. So that is what we're getting into here. So yeah, I'll try to read over this too and see if I see anything.
And from a technical implementation, like you need to consider when it's going to be saved in the database and how, and so, some of it might be configuration, or no, it's not, but where it's going to, in which table it's going to be saved. Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. This also provides a really pretty clear path for writing test coverage as well. So it's kind of, again, a little bit of an unfortunate thing for the person implementing this. It's like when you have this level of clarity, it's like, well, we should also test all of the acceptance criteria because they're so clearly laid out. So it in a way, makes more work, but much better work. Okay, let's move on to one last issue that doesn't really need a whole lot of discussion because it's near completion, but I just want to cover it anyway. It's issue 2709. That is admin bar, consider replacing the home button with a back to site button. Gregory, you filed this 5 years ago, looks like.
Yes, and because there's so many comments since I returned from my hiatus, have been hesitant to just start reading it. So I haven't kept up. So if anyone else has reviewed or tested this recently, maybe they would be more qualified. I promise that I'll get to it as well as soon as possible. It's one of my favorite sort of like UX improvements.
Yeah, I think Jen is the one who's looked at it amongst this group most recently. RG Piano and I don't know how to pronounce this. It's just Kaiser JB. Justin Kaiser, been working back and forth on this. My understanding is, let's see, Jen, I read through all of it and I didn't disagree. Oh, this is another issue. My understanding of this is that it's optional, that it's adding a new like checkbox to change whether it's a home link or a back to site link, which also makes it so it's like there's definitely a situation where it's like, well, this is point of contention, so we're just going to make it optional, and it also doesn't affect people's websites. it is this is kind of like one of those situations where I could see this easily being added in contrib, but when it's in core, we're like, I don't know. You know, we tend to be a little bit more focused on things. But yeah, I don't see the problem with this. It's like admin bar doesn't have that many settings already, and being able to configure it makes it easy. Nobody's going to complain that they have an option for this, I don't think. Let's see. So anyway, I guess I'm mostly just excited. Thanks, Justin, and thanks, Alejandro, for working on this so effectively. I love it when two contributors like just start hitting it back and forth rapid fire, and just like things move very, very quickly when that happens. I love to see it. Okay. Well, I just wanted to mention that one. That one's marked RTBC. So we'll probably get core committer taking a look at that one and seeing if it's ready to go.
You might have mentioned this already, but I think it's Justin's first core PR. So that's
is it really?
I think so. Yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Thanks, Justin.
Maybe it's a good idea to also mention the two related issues with the dialogues that we have, because we need someone like a front ender to review those. Do you have the numbers of the issues handy from previously, Tim?
Whether in the agenda, which I have open, here we go, 5835 and 5841.
So yes, so this is a common issue that we have come across with dialogues, and only in Chrome. But instead, because everyone's using Chrome, it's a very obvious bug and an annoying one. Intigozella and RGPiano have been doing some troubleshooting and figured out things, and they have an implementation that fixes the bug. It's just that we need someone with more JavaScript experience, or just to validate if this is the most appropriate approach.
Yeah, what number was the issue again?
5835 and 5841.
Okay, looks like okay. So this is also, they're in the RTBC queue.
Yeah.
Great.
But I think that last that I checked, that was a TBC because it works and the code looks fine. I'm not sure that we had a front ender or second pair of eyes just to see.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at this right now, and I see that there's a little bit of. Yeah, this is this is not trivial.
Yeah, it's what you call it, two different manifestations of the same basically problem in different dialogues in the UI.
Yeah, I really don't like it when we have set timeouts, like that's like, just wait sort of situations. I don't like those very much. But yeah, we'll see. There's something that might come into play here is we have a debounce functionality that like checks to debounce prevents spamming something from happening super frequently. The most common thing is like on window resize. You don't want to resize every pixel that as the window changes. You don't want to fire your event 1,000 times while a user is resizing 1,000 pixel difference. And so debounce only calls it within a certain time frame. So like you say the number of milliseconds that should pass before it fires an event. And that might come into play here as an alternative to a manual set timeout. We might use the thing that's already available in core to like rate limit an event. I'm not sure if that really applies here, but I'll see. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Greg, for raising this issue. This segues nicely into the next thing I wanted to mention, which is 123.1. 123.1, we haven't had a minor or a bug fix release of the 123 release yet, which came out a month and a half ago now, in September 15th. We do have 14 closed issues in the 123 branch, and there are another half dozen or more RTBC issues that are also kind of ready to go into the 123.1 branch or release, I mean. So yeah, we're probably looking at a release pretty shortly, definitely within the next 2 weeks, maybe within the next 1 week. So that's an interesting opportunity just for us to get through the extensive list of pull requests that are already out there. There's 42 issues in total in the 123.1 milestone. And yeah, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 issues are marked RTBC out of that list, which is fantastic. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to make some time to look through these. Joseph, since you're here, if you can make some time to look through them as well, that would be awesome.
Sorry, I was only half listening. That was the 2 JavaScript issues that you're referencing?
Just check the RTBC queue.
Okay.
And because they're piling up in there, which isn't where we want to leave things. And that's kind of all I got. 123.1 is going to be around the corner. The 124 milestone still is fairly sparse as far as new features are concerned. You know, the next release 124 comes out in January, so we have a while. You know, 2 months yet before that rolls around. But yeah, we're still out there, like, you know, in the state where we're adding new features to the 124 milestone. I'd like to see some of those kind of get firmed up, or at least start moving some new features for the 124 release. But that's all that I've got. Kind of the news on releases. Thanks for all of the great topics for today. Does anyone have any other items they'd like to discuss?
Yeah, the issue with the packaging that fails for some contrib. I know that there was some discussions and some troubleshooting. Did we figure out what's the problem and if we need to fix the project or the GitHub integration?
Yeah, I looked at the options on the GitHub side to see if we could send fewer events to backdropcms.org, but I couldn't. It didn't appear as though that was possible. If you subscribe to the release event, GitHub now sends over 4 different events, I think it is, when a release is created. It's like release created, release published, release, I don't know, there's several of them. And right now we're responding to each one of those events, just saying, if release, then do something. And as far as I've seen, we haven't done anything about it yet, and we do need to fix it on our side. So that code is custom code that is in one of our backdropcms.org modules, also called the Borg modules. And that's where the change needs to be made, in the Borg GitHub module, I think it is. So that work needs to happen in backdropops/backdropcms.org. I'm seeing if there's an issue for this right now.
Are those multiple events causing a race condition?
Yeah, exactly. What we're seeing is that sometimes, depending on how long people take, like, creating their releases, sometimes you end up with a situation that 2 release nodes get created because 2 requests are happening in parallel, where it's processing and it ends up creating 2 release nodes. Also, sometimes we're seeing a package not getting created at all, and I'm not quite sure why that occurs. But a race condition leads to all kinds of unpredictable problems. So I think that that's the obvious thing that we need to address. I don't see an issue for this. Let's see, sorts recently updated. I'll make, oh wait, project node module should create a project node, not create a project node if there's packaging error. Yeah, I'll make a new issue because I don't see it in here. Okay. All I'm going to do right now is open the window and put the title in. So but I'll populate that after the meeting. Yeah, thanks, Greg. Okay, well, let's wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining the meeting. Lots of great topics. Martin dropped off already. I think that's really fantastic, that work you did on acceptance criteria. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining the meeting.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
let's close.